This is Omar Tyree, the original hustler from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, down here in Charlotte, North Carolina, on M9NDtv with my boy TEHUT-NINE. Make sure you subscribe to M9NDtv and you can get these great episodes of information each and every week and each and every month. And so over the last 6-7 years, it's been a hard struggle with me trying to find ways to keep the bills paid. And I got big bills now because I made a lot of money and bought things that, cost a lot. But before then, when I first came in, it wasn't a struggle at all, man. I was a young whippersnapper, hustler out of Philadelphia. I had an apartment with no furniture in it, and I ate them 99-cent Wendy's meals. I didn't have no kids. I didn't have a whole lot of what they call overhead, none of that. And so I went right at it with my books in my car, selling books, making $300, $400, $500 a week, and that was good. I started making a couple thousand a month, and I was good, and then it got more and more and more, and then Terry McMillan blew the hinges off the publishing industry in the early 90s, and I came walking right in. I got signed a $250,000 deal at age like 25, 26, man. I was a young whippersnapper with $250. Then I signed the next contract with $300. Then I signed the next contract with $500. So I ain't bad. Look here, I ain't know what they call that, starving artist. No, man, I was doing my thing early, right? You learn how to keep making money by your own facilities. You know what I mean? So, I got one song on my album called My Last Words where I talk about that. Other people that got jobs, they can't understand what we do as entrepreneurs. So you have to hustle. You ain't got a choice. Okay, and so I'll say that over and over again. And it's funny because a lot of people, they view me as an artist. And I am an artist, but I'm also a hustler. I gotta get this money. I'm not playing, so they don't know that I've become an artist because I made money doing it. That's the only reason you know me. If I didn't make money writing my books, you wouldn't know me. I wouldn't have a name. You don't become a New York Times bestseller by selling 2 books. That's about making money. And so a lot of times people don't give the value that artists have as money makers. Artists are money makers. When you good at making art and you make money with it, you a hustler. You an entrepreneur. That's how you make a living. And so some people, they have a conflict between hustling and art. No, it ain't no daggone conflict. If you good at their art, you gonna make some money with it. And unless you're foolish, you know what I mean? And you're a grown man, you got a family to provide for. This art makes my money. And so artists have managers and all that to make sure they get their money. And we're not playing. It's not a game. It's not fun and games. Give me my money. You know what I mean? Ain't no free art. So yeah, I want to get that very clear with everybody. I am not a dude that just writes books for free. That don't happen.
Welcome to another episode of M9NDtv with TEHUT-NINE, your host right here. Today I got a special guest. Y'all gonna love this one. Mr. Celebrity himself, Mr. Creative, the one and only Omar Tyree. I'm gonna let him get into it and tell you a little bit about himself, and then we'll ask a couple questions along the way, and just see what Omar been up to. What's up, Omar?
Yeah, I've been good, man. You see I'm growing up my little gray wisdom hairs right here. I never had facial hair before, but I think I'm old enough to do it now. So I got my little gray hairs here. I'm still handsome and young looking outside of that,
All right, Mr. Young, Mr.
I've
Young.
been hustling as usual,
Most definitely.
And we're entrepreneurs, so we got to make a living happen.
Real quick, for those who don't know, man, just tell us a little bit about you. What your background is, some of the things you've done, and you know what I mean.
I'm a writer out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Went to college to play football and run track and end up becoming this writer because I always had something to say about everything going on with black people and our culture. And so I became one of those radical thinkers and started putting it in books. And now I have 28 books. I've hit at least 5 or 6 New York Times bestsellers. and start trying to mess around with movies. I always write poetry. Started messing around with music. Started messing around with magazines and all kind of stuff. So I've been involved in a whole lot of stuff. You have some ups and downs. Now people don't read as much as they used to. They're addicted to cell phones and videos and entertainment. And so now I got to get involved with music again so I can get the attention of the young bucks who are stuck on these cell phones and videos and musicians, you know. So if you want to make sure that, you know, your name is out there and people understand who you are, you got to compete with that too. And so, you know, I'm using all my facilities and my writing skills to make sure that I make an impact while I'm still alive. And I'm definitely still alive.
Omar Tyree. So you're working on some new projects.
Yeah.
What's that all about? What's the project all about?
Well, the project I just finished was All Access. I had a brand new book that came out last September in 2015. All Access is about how much people are willing to give up for these cameras. This thing right here in front of me. How much are you willing to give up of your private and personal life to be on camera, to be more popular, to increase your social media numbers and all of that? And so now you have a lot of people doing reality shows and doing a whole lot of things they wouldn't typically do and opening up their lives, which they wouldn't typically be able to open up their lives to. So now people are running around trying to, you know, become celebrities in that way with reality shows. And so I said, what if a situation occurred where you could not control what people thought of you and what people were able to manipulate with the information that, you know, they came up about you? And so I wrote a story about Atlanta and a young woman in the media who gets caught up in this whole, you know, defamation game of who you are and who you did and, you know, and what you did and how many people know about it. And she got a husband and regular kids and a regular family. And so that book did pretty well. But I found out that in this era where we got cell phones and, you know, so much information that moves fast, you know, books are not as hot as they used to be. And so, you know, I'm getting a whole lot of returns now. So I'm looking at, you know, getting rid of these books and continue to be in that field. But at the same time, I'm thinking, hey, man, I got to make some movies. I got to make some music. I got to compete to make sure people know who I am with these books, which are great, hot movie ideas. But you got to get the films popping first. So I got to film that Lionsgate and Cold Black Fly Girl series. They finally going to get around to shooting. But I can't control the time factor on that. And so, you know, it's a frustrating situation as a writer right now because, you know, a lot of writers, unless you're doing movies and music, you know, a lot of, you know, frustrating writers in books and the magazine world and even the newspaper world, you know. So I just happen to be in a profession that, you know, you're going to have to keep fighting for to eat your meal, so to speak. Yeah.
Wow. As a successful entrepreneur,
yeah, entrepreneur,
okay.
Yeah.
Artist,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying, someone who has broken through and you know done his craft on a national scale, international scale.
Yeah,
you know, because there's a lot of people out here writing and doing stuff, but
yeah,
they, you know, and it's not that they're not great. They're great in their own right, but so far they're you know, been able to hit a local or regional audience.
It's harder now.
Yeah.
It's harder now.
What was your motivation? What motivated you to strive to
people
did you want to be rich? Was it money? Was it fame? What was it?
People always have these exotic stories about, you know, lightning striking them and they becoming authors and writers. And for me, it was real simple. We had some English assignments where the teachers asked us to write about, you know, our friends and our family and our home place. And I started writing about Philadelphia. I went to the University of Pittsburgh, and I started writing about Philadelphia, going to house parties, chasing girls, playing football, getting in fights and all that kind of stuff. And I did it so well that my teachers were astonished, and, you know, my classmates, my peers were like, whoa, man, your stuff good, man. Your stuff sound like we right there, man, really. And so they were really excited by it. And so the teachers asked me to write a student diary my freshman year of college. And so I started writing a diary that they published in the student newspapers. And I had sophomores, juniors, seniors, grad students reading my work. And so I knew that at that point, you know, in my freshman year, that I was pretty good at putting words on paper and creating visionary stories and images that you can see and feel and relate to. And so it was just a thing for me that I was good at something and I didn't want to lose it. And so I was challenged to write a book. I had a friend named Michael Quigley from Pittsburgh, and I would always do these speak outs at different events that we had. You know, I always had something to say, you know. And so Mike Quigley was like, man, you think you know so much, you should write a book or something. And typically when you get challenged like that, especially coming from black people, young black people, writing a book, you typically would back down from that. But I wanted to back down type. So I said, yeah, I am going to write a book. And when I said that, I shocked the rest of my peers and classmates, but I was already writing all the time anyway, and they was loving what I wrote. And so I said, all right, let me go ahead, go to that next step and write a book. And so it was just a thing of being good at it and not wanting to lose a talent that you obviously had in storage. And so I went ahead and started writing my first book at age 19, my sophomore year at the University of Pittsburgh. And I finished 2 books, Colored on White Campus, which is now called College Boy, and Fly Girl, which became a legendary urban classic. I wrote that book between 19 and 20, okay, all the way back in 1989. And that book is still famous to this day. So it's one of those things, man, where...
About how many copies of that book have been sold to this day?
I think about 850,000, but now when you start counting ebooks, it's over 1 million now because the ebook sales are taking it over. But a lot of those books that I was selling initially, a lot of them were being passed around because people couldn't get them, and the price tag was, you know, still like $13, $14. And so, you know, you had a lot of people that were passing the books around. So they've been read by, you know, good 3, 4, 5 million. You know.
But so as on a collective level, you have 28 books. How many books have you sold collectively?
Collectively, it'd be over 3 million now. I got to update my website. So I got 2.5, but yeah, I keep forgetting about the ebook sales. And so if I add in the ebook sales, I definitely would be over 3 million, you know, books sold now.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So what you say right now you're going into music and to films?
Well, music is writing. You know, I write all the lyrics. I don't do no freestyle stuff. I write the stuff down and you know, say it and memorize it. And I'm always writing. I wrote about 3 songs this morning. You know, so songs are easy to write, quicker. You know, and I keep doing it. You know, so have you
ever thought about teaching, like doing seminars? And
I have. And,
I know you do speaking engagements. Tell us about that. Like, if someone wanted to book you to come to their college or you know their facility to come and speak, you know, what's that process like?
Well, you hit me up on my website at omartyree.com. That's OMARTYREE.com. And make sure you have a budget for me, you know. And if I need to travel, make sure you have a travel budget and put me in a hotel, and we'll make it happen. And I'm a great speaker. I've been speaking for years. And so that's as easy as it comes, you know what I mean? Contact me and have your budget ready, and let's rock and roll with it.
You also do consultations. Tell us about that.
Consultations, you know, a lot of people want to write and be published authors. And so since I've been in the trade now since 1992, that's 24 years. I know everything about the writing and the publishing game. And so I charge folks, you know, a price where one-time fee, and then I'll help them for the rest of their career, you know. But they're going to pay me one time because I'm not going to give you my knowledge and my access for free. And a lot of times people are not serious, so that means you have to be serious. And it's not a big-time fee; it's a nice small fee, but it factors out people who want, you know, play with my time. I don't, you know, I'm not a, you know, playful person. So if you're going to get into the writing and publishing game, you got to take it seriously. And so I charge them a one-time fee just so they'll take it seriously, and they take me seriously, and then we can rock and roll from there. And again, you can go to my website, omartyree.com, and then grab the button that says consultation, and it explains everything.
Omar, so I mean, you're doing a lot, man. You're doing books.
Yeah.
You're doing movies. You're doing music. You start businesses. You have a family. I mean, you know, what does it stop for you as far as creativity? Is there anything that you are not, like, you know, seeing as beyond your scope?
Well, I don't have no job, so I had to create myself a living, you know, and I have not had a job since my senior year of college, way back in 1991. Okay, so last job I had, actually 92, I was working for a newspaper. And, you know, the editor was pretty much like my uncle, Barry Murray, real cool dude, hired me out of college. I did an internship with them, and then they hired me out of college. But I only did like a year with them before I put out my second book, Fly Girl, in 1993. And then from that point on, I started selling my book, and I was just doing freelance writing. And I have never been employed by a company since 2000. Or actually, it was at 1993. So that's 23 years. I've been an entrepreneur. So yeah, you learn how to keep making money by your own facilities. You know what I mean? So I got one song on my album called "My Last Words" where I talk about that. Other people that got jobs, they can't understand what we do as entrepreneurs. So you have to hustle. You ain't got a choice. Okay, and so I'll say that over and over again. And it's funny because a lot of people, they view me as an artist, and I am an artist, but I'm also a hustler. I gotta get this money. I'm not playing, so they don't know that I've become an artist because I made money doing it. That's the only reason you know me. If I didn't make money writing my books, you wouldn't know me. I wouldn't have a name. You don't become a New York Times bestseller by selling 2 books. That's about making money. And so a lot of times people don't give the value that artists have as money makers. Artists are money makers. When you good at making art and you make money with it, you a hustler. You an entrepreneur. That's how you make a living. And so some people, they have a conflict between hustling and art. No, it ain't no daggone conflict. If you good at their art, you gonna make some money with it, unless you're foolish. You know what I mean? And you're a grown man, you got a family to provide for. This art makes my money. And so artists have managers and all that to make sure they get their money, and we're not playing. It's not a game. It's not fun and games. Give me my money. Ain't no free art. So yeah, I want to get that very clear with everybody. I am not a dude that just writes books for free. That don't happen.
All right. Yeah, I heard it from the man himself. Yeah. Art is a business. And
that's what it is.
The hustle.
I even got a book called the Equation, where I explain, the whole equation is art.
Break that down real quick here.
Art. Actually, is the first word is love.
And this
love.
is hold on before you go. This is this equation is called the equation for life.
Yeah, the equation for life. The 4 indisputable components of business success.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole title. And you can get that online. You go online, look up The Equation by Omar Tyree, and order it online from John Wiley and Sons. That's one of the top business book publishers in the country. And that book basically, love what you do, turn it into an art form, which means you have to be good at it. Then you have to gather support, which means you have to market, promote, and sell them. And then it equals business. And once you get the business, you have to revise it and bring it back to the whole loop. You reinvest in the business and keep it going. And that's where we've had issues now because people aren't reading like they used to. So now trying to reinvest into the book game is not working because you're not getting out of it what you used to get out of it. And so now I'm going to have to reinvest into the music and make sure I get the support that I didn't get the last time I tried music because I didn't need it back then. I had the books. And so now I have to get that support. It's a necessity. And then the films create support again because people love movies. I just went to the Superman Batman joint last week. It did 170 million in the first week.
Wow, that's awesome.
So
hey, when you were doing your thing,
yeah.
As artists, sometimes, we have a tendency of sharing our inspiration with others before we actually sometimes even go out and try to make them actual realities. What kind of feedback were you getting from people? Because a lot of artists go through this, and I want you to speak to those who may find discouragement from their surroundings,
right?
Doubt or whatever. I'm sure tell us, did you go through anything like that? Were you discouraged? Did you find people doubted you?
I'm going through that right now.
I'm trying to make this music. Talk about it.
Yeah, my son's like, Dad, you about 80 years old. You can't make no music, man. Ain't nobody gonna listen to that. But when I was writing my books, it's crazy because I was too young to write books and black people didn't write books. This is back in the late 80s. So we didn't have a whole lot of black authors back in the late, and I became one of the youngest and one of the first to do it, and I hustled my way into it. So as a business person, an entrepreneur, as an artist, you gotta have tough skin, dude. If you one of them people that get discouraged by somebody else saying you can't do it, then go back to that 9 to 5, dude. Go work at Walmart. This ain't for you. Trust me, because we always have naysayers. We always have people that they don't know what our vision is. And so you got to have a lot of determination on your own, self-determination. You can't have no yes crew. Is this good? Is this good? Is good? And look, man, they don't understand what you're doing. A lot of art is individual genius. And so you have to pretty much accept your individual genius, know that it's genius, and push it forward and get other people to accept it and love it. You know, and if you don't have the skin to do that, I'm telling you, go work for Walmart, Target or something, man. Go sweep up some trash and you'll be a janitor or something. Don't get into this art game if you think it's going to be easy and everybody going to love you. It don't work that way. You got to push through a lot of naysayers, and that's constant all the time. Every time I write a new book, you're thinking, what if this one don't work? And you got to push through that and put it out anyway. And that's what we all have to do as artists. You know, every time you write a new poem or do a new movie, you starting over again. Now, of course, you got a name behind it, but you still starting over again. You don't know if they're going to like it or not. And so you have to have that type of skin if you want to be an artist.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's tough for a lot of people who are giving up what they view as like promising careers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you have some people who you know, their parents believe like, wow, you could have been this, you could have been a doctor, you could have been a lawyer. Why you want to go be a rapper or a singer or a poet or a painter or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why you want to go do that? You want to struggle? I mean, what's the struggle like? Describe the struggle. What was the struggle like for you?
Well, the struggle over the last 6 years of, you know, Obamonomics, you know what I mean? When the economy went down, has been tough since 2009, when books stopped selling, and I had a whole lot of competition from new writers coming up. And I really wanted to get into the film game a long time ago. And it's really hard for African Americans, which we just learned. Will Smith and what's that, Straight Outta Compton, should have definitely won some awards, you know what I mean? But, you know, it didn't happen, and they didn't, you know, and that's constantly going to be the case with blacks in films. And so it's been very hard to get in the film world. In the book world, like I said, it got a lot of competition, and it haven't been selling like that. And so over the last 6-7 years, it's been a hard struggle with me trying to find ways to keep the bills paid. And I got big bills now because I made a lot of money and bought things that, you know, cost a lot. But before then, when I first came in, it wasn't a struggle at all, man. I was a young whippersnapper, you know, hustler out of Philadelphia. I had an apartment with no furniture in it, and I ate them 99-cent Wendy's meals. I didn't have no kids. I didn't have a whole lot of what they call overhead, none of that. And so I went right at it with my books in my car, selling books, making $300, $400, $500 a week. And that was good. I started making a couple thousand a month, and I was good. You know, and then it got more and more and more. And then Terry McMillan blew the hinges off the, you know, publishing industry in the early 90s. And I came walking right in. I got signed a $250,000 deal at age like 25, 26. Man, I was a young whippersnapper with $250. You know, then I signed the next contract for $300. Then I signed the next contract for $500. So I ain't bad. Look here, I ain't know what they call that, starving artist. No, man, I was doing my thing early, bright and early. But over the last 7 years, I wouldn't say I've been a starving artist. I've been a starving father. I've been a starving parent. I've been a starving, you know, adult. You know what I mean? Because things tightened up. And you know, unfortunately for me, I was trying so hard to get into the film game that I spent up a lot of money pushing it, and it took a while. It took longer than I expected it to. It's all going to come back when them films finally pop off. But yeah, over the last 7 years, it's been hard. But not in the initial stages. I went right on through.
I think a lot of times people have the wrong idea about what it's like to make a lot of money or to come into a lot of money. Give us a sense of, like, you know, of what it's like when you have that kind of money. Do your bills change? Do your obligations force your monthly expenditures to be higher than the norm? Like, what would you say was like, you know, a normal month for you?
Yeah, it depends on the person. You know, I think I was a serial entrepreneur. You know, I always wanted to do some new business. Now, I wasn't the type that was just buying up a bunch of cars and buying up expensive clothes. I never was into that. But I was definitely into doing new business. I kept trying to start new businesses with my own money. And so that's where I spent a lot of, even when I bought that condo, I used that condo as a backdrop for a film because I wanted to jazz it up and I was trying to force myself to go all Hollywood. Just do, you know what I mean? All balls to the wall. And I did that, you know what I mean? But it didn't work, you know, so my thing was, but I can't speak for other people. You got some people that, you know, they start buying 5 and 6. They got a collection of cars, and then they got a collection of houses, and they got a collection of boats and stuff like that. I never did all that. You know, so I lived as a regular, normal person. I was still going to football games, basketball games. My family had season tickets at one point, but they wasn't that expensive. You're talking about like $6,000 for the whole year. You know what I mean? We had season tickets. Now, I look at that and say, well, I'm going to spend $6,000 one pop for season tickets. I probably wouldn't do that now, but when I had the money, I was like, yeah, $6,000. And then it changed where, they moved to a new arena, then it went up to $12,000. I was like, whoa, that $6,000 was good, 12, doubling it. So it depends on you. I think the thing I spent the most for, again, was the vacations. And if I do it all again, I would do bigger vacations. I love that, going somewhere with my family, my son seeing other cultures, getting on airplanes, seeing it. I didn't get a chance to do that as a young person, so that's what I was able to give my sons, and they still remember those times. And that's the one thing that when I get this money back, I'm going to go full blast with taking my family, on vacations and whatnot. But it's the business part that now I definitely going to be more cautious about things and definitely have partners. And so I was not a frivolous spender in that way, but each person is different. If you like fur coats and diamonds and jewelry and all that stuff,
your fur coats and your diamonds and your blings and your items of like ostentatious waste were not so much, those things. Your items were actually businesses.
Yeah, business was.
So give us a sense of like, or give us a idea of some of the businesses that you were involved with.
Music, I spent a whole lot of money.
Let's hear about it. What's the name of your music company at that time?
I had a company called Hot Lava Records, and I spent about 2 years, but we put out a soundtrack that was very hot, but we didn't have.
What was the name of the soundtrack?
It was called Cold Blooded, and I had the idea of.
What was that about? That was like a soundtrack to a book?
Yeah, it was a soundtrack to a book, and we wanted to do a movie, and we wanted some major labels behind us, but they wouldn't get behind us. And I couldn't get the movie out, so it was just a book and my own label putting out records, and I didn't have any stars on it. We had one star, Nivea from Atlanta, and Job Records would not let us put her record out as a single. And so it just could be on the album. And so I didn't have a way of marketing. I wasn't with the majors. And then you find out how expensive it is back then to market a record where, some of these marketers wanted $30,000, $40,000 a pop to market one song. And that's when videos were like $100,000 and $200,000. It was expensive as hell back in the early 2000s when I was messing around with the music. And so it was just money going after money, going after money, going after.
So how much money would you say you invested in your Hot Lava Entertainment?
Man, it must have been almost $1 million, man, in a couple of years messing around with that stuff, because it kept eating it up and eating it up and eating it up and eating it up. And then somebody finally broke into my studio. I had a studio and smashed and took everything out the studio, and that was it. That's where I finally said, you know what, dude?
So somebody stole you out of the business.
Yeah, that was it. So that was rough. Finally stopped me from bleeding from all kind of money with that music stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then I did the magazine.
Did you make any money from the music?
I made money, but it's not what you put in it.
Okay.
Let's say I made $100,000, but I spent $800. You $700 in the hole.
Wow.
So no, I'm not gonna say I made any money if you spent that much to do it. Then I put out a magazine. I did Fly Girl T-shirts. So I did it. And then the movie thing I spent a good $60,000 trying to do that, and then trying to market that. So it's just money over money, And then you got your regular bills that you have to pay continuously. And back then, I paid life insurance. Life insurance was like $800 a month. I was paying life insurance for several years. I had to finally say, look, my wife was working. We get none of your life insurance and your health insurance. This is expensive. So stuff like that, where you're not thinking about it as an entrepreneur, you don't get no benefits, man. You socking all your money's coming out. So people don't think about that. You know what I mean? You're paying $800 a month for life insurance for your family. And when you're an entrepreneur, you got to pay for everything. And so, yeah, it's not like you just throwing money up in the air. You got to pay for all the stuff. Then you have family members that kept having, situations that you bail them out with, And so that's why my family never tripped when I needed money, because I was always helping them. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, life of a hustler, life of a man who made it. And would you say lost it, or would you say mishandled it? How would you categorize it?
I would say life caught up with me. That's what I would say.
Caught up with you.
Life caught up with me, and I'm going to catch back up with life. So all I got to do is stay alive, and I'm going to get it back, and I learned some valuable lessons from it. Now, here's one thing I will say, okay? With my family, which I'm still with, my 2 sons and my wife, when I lost a lot of the capital, I actually became closer to them. because I didn't have money to travel like I used to chase whatever I was chasing. When I had money, even when I had that condo, I'm thinking about when I had that condo in Charlotte, I spent a lot of time messing with music down at the condo, trying to do movies, all that time away from my family. Well, when the money wasn't there, I didn't have that money to get all these businesses. So then I was around my family more, watching the basketball games and the soccer games, and I even coached my son's basketball team once, now track, and so I've been closer, and that's who I am. I'm a family dude, so I got a chance to be closer with my family, where when I had that money, I was all over the place. And so it was a benefit from that. You know, the Lord said, well, I'm going to put you closer to your family. And so my family's been strong through it. You know, we didn't have the same money, but we had that bond that we have. And so now when I get it back again, you know, I know what's important.
You just say the Lord said?
Yeah, the Lord said, man, it's what it is. You know, look at it that way. Because I could have been a knucklehead.
The Lord said.
I ain't no knucklehead.
All right, we're going to leave that one alone.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the Lord said.
The Lord.
Yeah, because I mean, it depends on how you take it. You know what I mean? I could have become an alcoholic or something stupid. I didn't do that. I'm still about my family. I'm still, you know, taking care of business. You know, so you know, I look at the kind of man you are when things get bad. I went ahead and tightened up my family and stayed there. I was still there. I'm still doing what I need to do. And so, you know, that shows a real measure of a man. I didn't run out on my family. I got closer to them. You know, I love that. You know what I mean? Because I love them people.
And you have some great kids. I know your wife. She's awesome, of course. Do any of your kids want to do anything like what you've done? I know you ran track as well.
Yeah, my oldest son, he's a sportscaster right now. He's already, you know, doing games, football games, not football, they don't have football, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, baseball. And it's funny because I used to watch sports all the time, and my son would watch, and they had these sports talk shows where they would just talk about the sport. And my son couldn't understand, why are you watching these talking guys? They're not playing the game, they're just talking. And so he called them talking guys. And now he wants to be one of the talking guys.
That's awesome.
And so every time I bring that up,
I got some movies.